The APC's right of reply. I'm joined now in the studio by the Executive Secretary and CEO of the National Institute of Cultural Orientation and former member of the Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council, Otumba Biodun Ajiboye. Otumba, good to see you again.
Thank you, my brother Charles. I'm back home here.
You are perfectly welcome here.
Thank you.
Where would you like to start in your right of reply to the former governor of Kaduna State? There seems to be a lot that he said there.
Well, with due respect to Malam El-Rufai, there are times in the life of a man to be silent and observe situations as they unfold. When you become so vulnerable, you become a nuisance and a rabble-rouser.
Well, he's a member of the opposition.
But you see, opposition is not the same as just talking, just saying things out of personal vendetta and bitterness.
But is he just talking?
He's just talking. How do you say that nothing is working in Nigeria? Even if a child of 2 years says that, you would consign it to some garbage. How can you say that? But that's not the issue. El-Rufai is a very lucky human being. And I would have thought, at 65, he should learn a little bit of wisdom by being silent, by being a bit reserved, so he would get a lot of respect from people. It's obvious that he's smarting from some failure, and it is obvious that he's spewing his frustrations. There's no doubt about it. If he didn't want to be minister, why did he respond to the nomination and the screening with the Senate? He wanted to be minister. We all know how much he loves power. He's not today. He loves power, and when he doesn't get power, he wants to disrupt everything and make everybody look like an idiot. That's exactly who he is. But this time around, he's gotten it wrong because he's dealing with the wrong man. See, he messed up Buhari. He says Buhari is not electable. He's never electable. And that Nigerians will not forget his insensitivity as a military man. That was Buhari. Now, I don't blame him. Ashwaju cited him in the public in Kaduna and more or less told him, no, you must join us in governance. And he felt very proud of himself, as if he's some Nostradamus. Okay, walking down the line, he didn't make Senate screening. Instead of him to face his problem and find out why he didn't make the screening, he went to town and started to vituperate. What is the essence of that? He's not a little boy. This was a man who was DG of BPE. He was minister in FCT, governor for 8 years. What else does he want God to do for him? And he thinks in his mind he can bring down a government. We lost the presidential election in Kaduna now. So what is it? If you can't win the election in your locality, in your state, what kind of politicians do you think you are? And he's surrounded by some people who are obviously political failures. Some have been struggling since 1999. They have been failing successively since 1999, and they will continue to fail until they get into the grave. Some even lost their state to a successor. Amechi is taunting Wike is taunting Amechi like a baby. Amechi is not even supposed to come out to talk. He has lost his political wit. So who else is there? Peter Obi. Of course, we all know Peter Obi will keep ranting forever. You go to the north where Hausa cap today, get into the mosque. Tomorrow he will continue to do that. Ashwaju is not a man they can mess with politically.
Well, the issue that I think he was trying to focus on is the way that the government has improved or not improved the lives of the Nigerian people. He seemed to think that the president had lost the plot and the trust of most Nigerians because, according to him, if you ask most Nigerians whether they are better off today than they were 2 years ago, most of them will say they were better off 2 years ago.
Charles, I'll ask you a question. When there's a problem in a house, is it the best option to continue to manage the problem or to get to the root of the problem and solve the problem forever? Yeah,
but you don't take your family to go and live on the street while you're trying to fix the problem and let the rain be falling on them and be saying to them, we need to fix the problem. You find alternative accommodation for them or somewhere.
The alternative accommodation will be comfortable.
Where they can stay while you're fixing the house.
That's the point.
Yeah, but that's the issue, isn't it?
No, it's not the issue.
That is the issue.
It's not the issue, and I'll tell you why. The last government borrowed to pay salaries. The last government used almost our revenues to pay salaries. Okay. Because the last government did not want to witness what we call surgical operation on a disease, on an ailment. It's a choice. Ashwaju says, no, let's get to the root of this problem once and for all. If we're able to solve the problem today, the problem may not arise again in future. If I were a leader, I would choose that option Ashwaju has chosen. It's not as if there are no ways of saying, let's keep borrowing and use it to placate and serve it as, palliative. And life goes on a very, very fake, template. That's an option. So it depends on which option. And this guy called El-Rufai, he knows, he's just playing to the gallery. Everything El-Rufai has come to say on Monday is saying them out of bitterness and frustration. See, have you seen what Obasanjo said about El-Rufai? He said El-Rufai does not understand the meaning of loyalty. He's only loyal to himself. He's a pathological liar. He said so, not me. He said he doesn't even know the meaning of, he embellished lies and half-truths. You see, God is wonderful. There's a Yoruba proverb that says, when you are bald-headed, God compensates you with a lot of beards. His petite size like mine, almost everybody got created like this. It gives them a little bit of extra intelligence. There is no doubt. I've seen quite a lot of people. It now depends on how well you are able to use this intelligence. If you allow your ego to mar this intelligence, you become a rabble-rouser. El-Rufai is almost getting to that point of a rabble-rouser.
Right. Let me ask you this, because you've been a big ally of President Tinubu. You were there with him when he was running for office, and you helped him win the presidency, and you've been rewarded for it. Where do you think the president's, given what you've seen in the last 2 years, where do you think the president's political weakness lies right now? What's the big strategic threat to him?
As far as I can see, the biggest threats to this government are those who refuse to understand the attitude and the mindset with which he's running the state.
So that means that potentially they can upset the apple cart for him.
I don't think so. They don't have that capacity.
Well, you just said they're the biggest threat.
Yeah, the threat is not converted to a loss automatically. If we can mitigate against threats and strengthen up. Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is, any move Bola Tinubu makes, rather than patriotically understanding it, a Peter Obi will criticize it and hack it down. That old Baba, what's his name now? Baba Atiku will find faults. As if they were the president, they can't make such situation. They can't be in that kind of situation. No. When a government is in power, it's only responsible of all of us to patriotically support such government so that the government can deliver. I am not saying that there should not be opposition. But of course, these people are not even capable of putting proper opposition on the table.
But what about people like Senator Ali Ndume, who was here before?
Senator Ali Ndume said a lot of things. One of the things he said that didn't...
But he's a member of your party.
Yeah, he just told you that he has no loyalty to anything. He will be an opposition within the party.
But
he just told you he was an opposition within PDP. He was a member of PDP, but he was an opposition in PDP.
But he has loyalty to the Nigerian people and
I
to the
don't think
Nigerian
so. I don't think
constitution.
so. He doesn't get his concept right in some... How do you call Bayo Onanuga a domestic staff? Does that make sense? Is he a domestic staff? A 66-year-old man who has been struggling for Nigeria before he even knew what he was doing? You don't say things like that. And that was, I sat here watching him, and that was what made me think that he probably doesn't have his facts right, and sometimes he just wants to be noted, and he does things that are a bit radical to be noted. That's what I feel.
Beyond the fact that President Tinubu has removed the subsidy, and reformed the exchange rates regime and all the rest of it, for which we must admit he's been commended internationally.
Thank you.
What can you point to and say that he's really achieved, that has touched the Nigerian people? I'm not talking about what might touch them in the future. I'm talking about what has touched them in the last 2 years.
Have you heard of the student loan?
I have heard of the student loan. The NEL fund.
Okay. Did you see the latest commissioner of 2,000 trailers or trucks, tractors? Can you transform what that means into reality in agriculture? When last did we have such privilege? So what I'm saying is that in management, there are times to plan. And when you plan, the plan must mature into some execution.
Right.
The man has a vision. Just today they said revenue base of Nigeria has grown to 6 trillion the first quarter.
Yeah, but there's a big issue around.
No, I don't want to look at the issue first. Let's look at the prospect. You see, you like to look at Nigeria from the angle of half empty cup and half full cup. I would say half full. I would say half empty.
No,
now we're talking about what has it done that is inspiring. Right. And I said internally generated revenue has grown to 6 trillion. Now, you said you've heard of the student loan, and you've heard of the free enrollment of students in some higher institutions, and people are getting it. The man has a plan. There's a time to plan. When you are planning, there's a time for the plan to mature into execution, and there's a time the execution will be an outcome. So, it is not enough to say that there are no problems. There must be problems because the state of Nigeria was almost in comatose.
Yeah, but you're borrowing more money than any previous government.
Are we borrowing to invest, or
I don't know what you're borrowing.
We're investing. Obviously, we're investing.
You've borrowed more money than any previous government in recent history.
Are you saying that we're borrowing to pay salaries?
I don't know what you're borrowing.
So I'm saying I
am trying to understand. I'm trying to say to you that the statistics show that you have been borrowing a heck of a lot of money.
That's not an issue.
And that potentially can put this country in jeopardy.
It's not true.
Potentially
it is not true, and I'll tell you why. There is no country that does not borrow. Doesn't America borrow? But the fact is that when you are borrowing, your productivity must match what you are borrowing, and your repayment ability must be sure. That's what is important. It's not like we shouldn't borrow. Why would you not borrow? Now, today, Nigeria is on the path of growth. You see, why some of them are getting very disturbed is because they feel that it must be business as usual. Make sure you pay salaries, make sure you do this, make sure you do that, even though you don't have the capacity to take this on. So, but Bola Tinubu has decided to say, let us do proper planning. Let's go back to the drawing boards. Let's plan very well and see how well we can deliver. Now, to me, if I have an option, I'll take the option of proper planning than just dump on the ship and begin to do what is not. Okay. But you forgot again that the main reason why we have come here is it's a right of reply to Madam El-Rufai that's going around the whole city of Nigeria to say what he does not know. And I put it to you, Madam El-Rufai should be disregarded.